Pranakasha live stream.
There you go. All right.
All right.
Hold on.
Now,
I'm hosting the show, Matt. I'm hosting the show now.
this is my show, man.
Not anymore.
You can't
I've taken it
hijack
over.
my show.
Matt, I want to ask you the
Well,
first question. What just happened? I want you to tell the viewership what happened. You're not getting away.
Guys, me and Noah had the most kick-ass
Lovely conversation.
conversation for like an hour. We talked about all kinds of cool stuff. It was just like the best thing ever. And then suddenly I had this horrible thought. I thought, uh-oh. I really hope I pressed record.
And Matt,
and
I
then
have a question.
I said,
Let me have a
oh my
follow-up
God,
question.
I didn't press record.
Did you press record? No.
No, I didn't. I like completely subconsciously
you just
destroyed
wanted
myself.
to have a private conversation with me. And you know what, Matt? We had a great time and I appreciate it. Now, listen, I'm telling all of you out there watching, I've got about 20 minutes and Matt was kind enough to let me talk about my movie and talk about my Kickstarter. But I'm telling this to Matt and I'm telling this to all you. I'm going to be back after I shoot the movie sometime mid-May. When I say May, Matt, you know, I can tell his blood runs cold because it feels so far away. But I want to come back and have some real fun things to talk about. All right.
You know how long last week was? I had this was the longest 7 days of my life. I'm like, is it Friday? Am I talking to Noah yet? Is he even going to be there? Is he going to cancel at the last second?
No way, man.
Then here we are. And then I didn't press record.
Listen, for you, it's going to be a long day, but I got to make a freaking movie in like 2 months.
He signed this. We met at Star Trek Las Vegas.
Matt, you can't get into it. We already talked about all this.
We're wasting time. Quick, let's talk about the Kickstarter.
All right, everybody.
The clock's ticking.
Well, to cut to the quick of it, I launched a Kickstarter about 2 weeks ago to fund a short film I wrote called Type 1, which is, Matt, you can't cry during this, all right?
Remember this. This is Type 1. Oh, sorry. This is a Type 1. Okay, Type 1.
We already had this conversation.
Now we're
in a time loop.
This is a Type 2, okay? That's the difference. Type 2 is better. Now, is that the same with diabetic? Is it better to be Type 2?
We love all of our diabetics equally.
See, we're not judging. Type 1, Type 2 are equally beautiful.
Exactly. Anyway, I wrote a short movie. We're funding it on Kickstarter. It's called Type 1. It's about a Type 1 diabetic and his wife. Me and my darling wife, Mary Wiseman, will be playing those characters.
Tilly.
AKA Tilly, thank you. Who go in search of a cache of insulin after some sort of societal disaster before it's too late. And it will be directed by the one and only Anthony Rapp, AKA Stamets. That is the short pitch for the Kickstarter. It's been going very well so far, but we're still trying to hit our last stretch goal, which is $85,000. And at that, I will do a video commentary of my episodes of Star Trek Discovery, where I will talk about things that not even Matt and I talked about in the past hour.
Because we made a pact. We weren't going to talk about this season of Star Trek because we would spoil it. We would do spoilers and so on. And
yes.
And it's all gone.
Now, see, this is why I told you, he was like, we got 20 minutes, let's do it. But you're so depressed, man. You're so upset. You're going to bring everybody down.
This is crestfallen. Crestfalling and depressed is the same. I can crest up myself. Okay.
Poor guy. Poor guy.
I can do this now.
It's okay, man. We all make mistakes.
Here we go. Now, dang it. Well, okay. I really wanted you to talk about what it's like to be a diabetic.
Absolutely. It's extremely challenging. It's very challenging. Right. A diabetic has to make about an extra 260 decisions per day, which is a lot. Your blood sugar can be affected by 40 different factors, which is a lot of things to try and figure out what's going on. Your mood, your physical health, your emotional health, your ability to focus or do your job or to be present in a conversation can be affected by your blood sugar. And on top of that, it can be very expensive. especially if you don't have insurance. It can be insanely expensive. I'm
Right.
sure most all of us are sort of somewhat familiar with the insulin pricing crisis here in the United States. So in the United States, a vial of insulin is probably going to cost you upwards of $300 if you don't have insurance,
How
or
long does
maybe
that
even that
last?
much. A vial might last you between uh, a week to 2.5 weeks, depending on how much you use.
Okay.
But if you go to another country like Japan or Mexico or Italy or Canada, you're going to be paying between $0 and $12, regardless of insurance
So
status.
where do you live? Kind of north where? So you make trips to Canada apparently.
We make treks to Canada, but I still have to get all my prescriptions in the United States,
Okay.
unfortunately.
So you come back with a backpack full of insulin every time you go up there?
Unfortunately, in Canada, you can't purchase it outright. You have to be on the government health insurance. And to
Okay.
get on that health insurance, you have to be a Canadian citizen. Some people do make trips. Some people do order it like via online pharmacy from Canada because it can be cheaper. And some people make trips to Mexico. But, these are really challenging, difficult decisions that cut the cost by a little bit, but aren't really bringing it down to where it should be, which is free at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's an essential, essentially a hormone that every human being needs in order to stay alive.
Right.
So
Produced by the pancreas, right?
that's correct.
And it basically regulates your blood sugar.
Yeah, it's a really complicated, delicate, organ that essentially the human being takes function of when the insulin producing islet cells are destroyed. It's a autoimmune deficiency disease. So your white blood cells think they're bad guys and
they attack your pancreas.
Yeah, the specific insulin producing cells in the pancreas.
So, and now you have a special gizmo that, in fact, I just saw it on the Twitch.
Yes,
you have it under your arm, right? Are you shy about showing it? Or
no? This is my Dexcom G6. It is a continuous glucose monitor. So it essentially threads a very, very thin metal, not really a needle, it's flexible, but a metal wire under the skin. And it gives you a constant read of your blood sugar, like I have here on my phone. Oh, you can't really see. Hold on. There we go.
There we go. 117. So that's a pretty good. 117 is a pretty good number, right?
Yeah, you want to keep it. Do your best to keep it between like 155, 160, and 85, 90. But the reality is, it's going to swing outside of that all the time.
But even a normal person's blood sugar swings quite a bit, right?
A quote unquote normal person's blood sugar will swing from like 80 to 150 if you're maybe doing a huge amount of exercise, or if you haven't eaten in a long time, or if you have like a really, really carb heavy meal. So still, that's really within range. Whereas if a type 1 diabetic were to do that, even with insulin, you're probably going to swing much higher than that, just because you, the human being, are not as good of a regulator as your body is.
Right.
A functioning body is.
Now, see, I already learned a bit about this just by watching your Twitch channel, because you've got the numbers on there all the time.
That's right, yeah.
Watch, and then you're like playing the game, and then suddenly, folks, I got to eat a jelly bean.
Exactly. And Matt, that's why I put it up there, right? I have a live stream of that number up there, so that people feel like they can learn something about,
it makes you identify with it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, as like type 1 and insulin and all this stuff gets more and more familiar in the popular consciousness, people have questions, and that's sort of a symbol up there that, you can ask me questions, or if you want to get involved, or you might feel more involved in the situation in Insulin for All, if you feel like, well, I know somebody, right? I know Noah, like I know him. So it's not just abstract. It's like, I know a guy now.
Yeah, I know Noah Averbach-Katz.
There you go. And yeah, it's also easy. It's better for me too, honestly,
Okay.
because when I'm
You don't have to
going
feel
low,
embarrassed about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't,
You're open about it.
if my blood sugar is screwing up my concentration, or if it's making me
And you're like,
feel like sort of out of it, I don't have to pretend that I'm fine. I can just be like, look, this is why I'm feeling bad. I'm going to take a break. And everyone is really supportive. It's a great little community there.
So for you, the Foreigner song Double Vision probably has a special meaning.
I don't have so many vision issues. I think actually one of the vision things that happen, this is very specific, is that when you start taking insulin after you're first diagnosed, diabetics can get something called retinopathy, which is when the blood vessels behind your eyes swell, and that
Okay.
can lead to blindness. So
Mhm.
when you start taking insulin after you're diagnosed, the blood vessels will have been swelling because you're undiagnosed. They'll stop swelling because you're starting to take insulin again, and it will mess your vision up. So for like maybe a week after you get diagnosed and you start taking insulin, your vision will be blurry. But after that, I haven't really had any vision problems.
Well, you know what I notice, and um, I notice like my vision really depends on how tired I am, or also
Sure,
sometimes how much I've eaten. Like sometimes in the morning,
sure.
my vision sucks. So it's probably a similar thing.
Maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, so when did you first discover that you were diabetic?
It was the summer between my freshman year of high school,
Oh, okay, that
between middle
late.
school and high school. Yeah. I
Okay.
think I was like 12, 13.
Okay. Is that normal? Is that about the time when it shows up?
Um, generally it's earlier in age. A lot of kids find out when they're pretty young, like 2, 3, 4. That happens a lot.
Okay.
And 10-year-olds, it can happen a lot. So it wasn't so out of the realm, but more and more there is like adult onset. So a lot of people can wind up getting it in their mid to late 20s. That
Okay.
happens. And some people even as late as their 40s as well. It
Oh,
happens all the time. Yeah.
interesting. Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, do we have time to go a little bit into the nuts and bolts of your movie?
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'd love to hear about now. I didn't notice until I finally watched. Okay. I donated to your
Thank
Kickstarter
you.
before even watching and what the movie
Oh,
was.
thank
So it
you,
was
Matt.
all
That's
just based
very
on
sweet.
your
That's very
reputation.
sweet.
And I don't know if you noticed, but I got that one where you
I
have to be
saw.
my DM. You're gonna
I
have to
saw.
dungeon. So I'm hoping we can do that on my show, actually.
Yeah, we'll
We'll
do
figure
it,
something
man.
out. Anyway, so now you shot some of it already. Now, do you
We haven't
think?
shot any bit. I will say, Matt, actually, that video was actually just a promo bump. That was
Oh,
something where we
okay,
got together to kind of give people a sense of the vibe of the movie. I felt
okay,
like I really wanted to get across like what they might wind up seeing, because there's a lot going on. There's Star Trek in there, there's diabetes in there, there's
okay.
insulin stuff. So I wanted to give people a sense of what they would see. So we haven't actually
Oh,
shot
okay,
anything
good.
yet.
That's good to know. And then Anthony Rapp is going to be the director of photography. Is that it?
No, he's going to be the director straight up. So
Oh,
the
okay,
DP is a guy named Jordan, who
okay,
I did a short film with called Carpetland.
okay.
And I reached out to him because he is a great eye. He just had a film at Sundance and a short film at South by
Great.
Southwest. And then Anthony will be the director,
Who's going
the
to
head
edit it?
honcho. Not sure yet. We are talking with a couple of people who have relationships with my producers, but we haven't settled on anybody yet.
Okay. Well, I just happen to know that Chad Rubel.
That's
You know him?
I'm, Matt. That is a great suggestion, actually.
He's in
I,
between seasons on Discovery. I think he said because for a while he was lamenting that he needs a job in
well,
between these two things.
we won't be able to get it to him until June. So I don't know if he'll still be unemployed then. But you know what?
He
I'm
said he had
actually
something in between, but again, of course now I'm prejudiced because now every time I see a Chad Rubel episode, I always send him a DM and say, "Oh, that was cool," and what were
that's
you thinking
awesome.
there, and all that, and all that.
That's awesome.
Anyways,
That's
he's
actually Matt. That's actually a really really good idea.
okay.
I'll reach out to him and see what he thinks.
Okay, there you go.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and then the script's written, right?
Script is written.
Is it the final draft, or you think you'll still tweak it?
No, there's still some tweaks. launching a Kickstarter and bringing a team on board is like a lot of work and energy. I think
Right.
anybody who produces anything knows how much energy it is. So I felt like we had the script at a place where it was pretty much done.
Okay.
But I haven't sat down with
Except you forgot
Anthony.
to use the spell checker.
Well, Matt, I can't spell, so I'm
Well,
sure
now
I
I
didn't
know
even
that.
bother. So me and Anthony have to sit down and kind of go over stuff and maybe tweak a thing or two here.
Okay.
Maybe just explain some stuff. So there'll be some smaller passes, but it's relatively done.
Have you and your better half done a table read yet?
We haven't done a table read yet, and I was thinking like we should read this thing. I've never heard it out loud.
Okay.
I don't know, but I don't know how, like, if a table read for a movie I always find it's kind of difficult to really see if it works, but we will have to do a table read at some point. I'm just too
Okay.
nervous.
And you wrote the whole
I
thing, or did you guys collaborate?
I pretty much wrote the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I think, ultimately, like, she'll be like, can I say this here? Can I change these words? And I'll say yes.
No, it's got to be what's on the page, damn it.
Exactly.
This is like Deep Space Nine. That's how it's supposed to be done.
I wasn't going to make the joke, but thank you for making it.
So, okay, that's neat. And you guys are the two main actors, right? Is there any other actors that you plan to have in it?
It's just the two of us. It's just
Really?
the two of us.
I'll be an extra.
There's
I can
no
be in the show.
Listen, man,
You can green screen me in over Zoom. I know how to do that.
Thing so that it was extremely producible, right? I wanted to make it as producible as possible, keep it as simple, as streamlined, as like just
if you had Captain Hardinger, I mean, you get that would like get 20% more
come
of whatever.
Swoop in, pick us up in the ship. We're good to go.
We can go to the Matrix,
Totally different movie, but I'm interested.
All right. Sorry. Okay. So that's that. Okay. So it's going to be in a sort of post-apocalyptic world, right? Kind of.
I think, it will just feel like sort of a post-disaster world. So there won't be like a burning building, and there won't be robots trying to hunt us. It will feel like, boy, they're running from something that I feel like could have happened in 2022.
How good are you at a Ukrainian accent?
I know, that is crazy. I mean, it's crazy. It really is
just
crazy.
Looking at you, I would believe that you were Ukrainian. Just looking at you.
I can't speak Ukrainian, and I don't know. I don't have an Ukrainian accent, but it is wild, like how that has stayed so relevant, and there's like a huge insulin crisis in the Ukraine as well. And I think there's a lot of people doing a lot of good to get insulin into the Ukraine, because it's just awful, and that's sort of what the movie is about, which is like both people who are not in a, quote unquote disaster situation are sort of faced with these life and death situations all the time, right? Do I pay for rent, or do I buy the insulin? Do I get groceries, or do I ration the insulin? And then on top of that, people like me who are not insulin insecure have been lucky enough. We're very aware that we are a disaster away from being right there, So I really think that it does speak to something that's pretty immediate for a lot of people, and not just diabetics, but for disabled people in general.
So like if you fly in a plane, do you think like if this plane crashes somewhere and
well, Matt, if the plane crashes, I'm probably going to die in the plane crash, so I'm good to go. I'm fine. Okay. I'm off the hook.
How about a cruise ship? Well, okay, then suppose you went on a cruise ship.
Yeah, if I went on a cruise ship, I would definitely pack a lot of extra insulin, and then if there was like, if I got stuck there, and they couldn't deliver supplies on the cruise ship, then I would die on the cruise ship.
So, like, if you suddenly were in that crisis, like, couldn't you go on some super special diet that would somehow be really get rid of the spikes? That wouldn't do it?
No.
You couldn't just eat a raisin every 10 seconds or something like that?
You just need insulin to stay alive. That's really, that's really the reality, is that your back is just up against the wall, right? There's no secret. There's no way out.
Wow.
You have it or you're dead. There's no in between. So I could live probably for 48 to maybe, 54 hours without insulin. But then
Wow.
after that, I would be dead.
So it's like breathing.
Exactly.
It's like if you
That's
can't breathe, you die.
and that's why it's sort of so horrific that
Huh.
insulin pricing is so high in the US, because it's really a hostage situation, right? There's no
Yeah.
choice. Do you want to
Yeah.
pay or do you want to die?
Yeah. Wow. That's something. So
Yeah,
this must have really, but when you were 12 years old, you already had to think about this, right? So that must
oh
have
yeah.
really shaped your teenage formative years, right?
Yeah, it definitely did in ways that I probably can't untangle anymore,
Uh-huh.
but
Well,
it
I can always
definitely
do
gives you,
therapy.
yeah, exactly. It
I
gives you a
did.
perspective,
Yeah.
it gives you a real perspective where
Right.
you are much closer to the realities of how fragile a human being is,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people are comfortable with. Um,
You know what? I can see that in you. I think that's why people like you so much,
mm,
is because you have that sort of aura of wisdom about you that like someone much more mature has. Where you just realize like in a sense every moment is like precious, right?
yeah, yeah, I think that was an
So
early takeaway. Well,
yeah,
thank you. I appreciate that,
yeah,
Matt.
it comes through,
Thank
and
you.
so it's yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe you were already that way, but I'm probably being a diabetic helps that
Yeah,
philosophy.
it's in there. Whatever it's done to me, it's
Uh-huh.
not getting out. So,
Yeah, there's a
well, thank you.
reality there. I mean, but see,
Yeah,
the thing that's why people like you. That's why I like you. It's like, like you're like a real guy, right?
sure.
You're not
Yeah,
putting on a facade. You're Noah. You're an actor, but you're also this real person, right? And
yeah.
when, like at the table, I didn't press the button, but we talked all about this. But really quick, he's just super good with the fans, and I was throwing my card around everywhere, shamelessly promoting my YouTube channel at this Star Trek convention, and trying to get as much time as I could up and when I'm doing the autographs with all the different actors, and Noah caught on, and then he handled me very expertly. He was able to keep me in a certain boundaries, yet make me feel welcome and like I had that intimate moment with my Star Trek actor.
That's
I,
awesome.
I
I
mean,
love that.
not
It was
intimate.
we, Matt. We had an intimate moment. It
Okay,
was just the
I
two
was
of
intimate with Noah on Star Trek Discovery, folks. So I'll just
us.
admit that. All right. Okay, I derailed you. Sorry. Back to your thing.
No,
So
that's okay.
Kickstarter. Yeah. So this is all about. So the thing I think that made this Kickstarter work. One, you're a moderately known Star Trek actor now,
Very moderately. Emphasis on moderately.
but you're married to a well-known Star Trek actor.
That helps a lot more.
But also, a lot of people that were diabetic caught onto this thing, and they're like, "I can believe in this. I want to donate to it."
I
You
think
know.
that's definitely true. And I think, you know, within the diabetic world,
Mhm.
there is not a lot of media that is made by and for a diabetic audience. Usually, when diabetes is represented in media, it's never made by somebody who has diabetes, and it's either done well, or
Right.
it's done poorly, but it's always made for people who don't have diabetes, right? So it's explained in a way where a diabetic is like, well, I
Duh.
don't need to know this. Yeah.
Right.
Or it's just used as a plot point, right? And
Yeah.
so I think this has really showed me what a vacuum there is, and that it is meaningful to people that it's out there. And I just
I'm looking
really
forward
hope,
to seeing it.
yeah, I hope I can do
Yeah.
people justice
So when you
ultimately.
say it's a short film, like how long do you think it'll be?
I don't know, maybe 8 to 15 minutes,
Oh,
maybe
that's pretty
more.
short.
I don't know. I want to keep
Okay.
it short, because I want to keep it as concise and impactful as possible, right? I really do want it to be a very singular, contained, easy to follow story.
Okay.
Um, that's my hope.
So sometimes what people do as you know, is they will make a short film
Yes, and
as
expand it.
a way to pitch a feature-length film, right?
You
And
know,
so if
I
it does
didn't.
good, then suddenly you can get people on board and you can do an
I
expanded
definitely didn't
version,
have it in mind when I wrote
right?
this. There was no there. There still is no greater vision for it.
Mhm.
If somebody says I really want to expand it, I will definitely consider it. But you know, I don't want the diabetes to fade into the background.
Mhm.
And I also don't want it to lose its potency, right? I don't want to have the scene where I explain it, you know? So those things I can sort of leave out of a short film really happily. You know, I'm glad I don't have to like focus on something else because it's a short film. It's just about this. So
Okay.
those are sort of the challenges with expanding it, right? You have, you know, obviously it's a longer movie. You have to just let more stuff populate the movie, but I just really wouldn't want it to be diluted.
So you're not going to explain it, but are you going to do things like a super close shot of really detailed thing of you putting in the insulin and the whole routine, whole ritual of it and everything? Basically,
Yeah.
visually shows
So
shows
I
it.
think the way that I'm hoping to do it, and we'll see if this works or not, I don't
Okay.
know, is, you know, usually in a movie, when there's diabetes or getting a shot, right? It's sort of like you're saying, right? There's a close up and there is the ritual
Mhm.
and it's very focused on. And that's because people who have never seen it or experienced it before need to see what the hell is going on.
Okay.
My sort of approach is what I'm going to try. I don't know. We'll see if this actually happens or not. I don't know, Matt. Is to actually not do it super close up to start
Okay.
and have people who are familiar. They're going to know exactly what I'm doing. Just if they just see the corner of my hand, right? Because it's so routine, it's so
They
normal,
might
it's so
think you're like
natural.
shooting up heroin or something.
Nobody who knows what's going on will think I'm shooting up heroin. I
Okay.
guarantee it.
Because they'll see you do the
Then
prick. You'll do the prick
the,
thing and all that.
Well, it's just not the same, right? Like if
Okay.
you've never like for somebody like you, Matt, who's never really seen it before,
Mhm.
it might at first be disorienting, right? It's like, what's going on, right? Oh, I don't know what's going on. I'm not a diabetic. Every diabetic will know what's going on.
Okay.
Then as the movie progresses, you will get these more close-up shots. You'll get more explanation. But the purpose of sort of structuring it like that is to hopefully say, to remind you like, oh yeah, like I don't know what's going on here. And it seems totally normal and natural for this person and totally routine. And actually, I feel like I'm being let into something, right?
Right.
I'm being brought into this world as opposed to like almost being talked down to, right? Here's
Right.
this thing, you need to understand it. And like, here you go, it's served to you on a silver platter. My hope is to sort of make it feel like, for a diabetic, feel like I'm right at home here. This person, I'm in good hands with this person. They're not going to talk down to me and tell me what I already know. And
Right.
for the non-diabetic audience, my hope is that they'll feel included in something and
Right.
not pandered to.
Right. So, okay, I had an idea, and you probably maybe we're going to do this already. So, I mean, you could open it showing just some numbers on the screen, and we have no idea what these numbers are. We just see them going up and down. And then at some point in the movie, you suddenly realize what these numbers are. You know, that could
There's
be
something, you know,
that's a
Matt,
gimmick.
there's something similar to that. I've taken the focus a little bit off the numbers just because this guy's numbers are bad because he's running out of insulin.
Okay.
But I've done something similar at the start of the movie. One of the symptoms of not having enough insulin is having to go to the bathroom all the time. You have to pee constantly
Well, that's
because
me.
well, let me tell you, because when you don't have enough insulin, your liver has to work overtime. So when you don't have enough insulin, your body starts burning fat because it can no longer burn sugar or carbohydrates. So
Oh.
essentially, you go into starvation, right?
Well, burning fat's good. That helps. I mean, that's the thing to do these days.
Sure, this is like a keto, right? It's a
Yeah.
keto diet. You go into ketoacidosis, but what happens when you burn too much fat is it acidifies your blood. So
Okay.
that's sort of how you die, right? You die because your blood turns to acid. So your body starts burning fat. It goes into starvation because it can't get energy from carbohydrates or sugars.
Okay.
Your liver starts working overtime to process all of the ketones, or the kind of like acid that's released from I'm sure somebody out there will correct me on this, but this is generally your liver starts working overtime, and your body then tries to keep flushing out the ketones via peeing. So you're going pee every 5 minutes, and you're unquenchably thirsty because your body is telling you, hey, we're literally dying over here. You need to drink more water. We need to keep flushing out this poison before it acidifies our blood. So so the movie will start with sort of a montage of this guy having to go pee all the time, which for a diabetic audience will feel extremely familiar, because that's one of the early symptoms is you're constantly having to go pee. You lose all bladder control. And so that's a sort of similar thing. It's sort of an unfamiliar, but also
familiar. Having to pee
thing.
is kind of familiar.
Yeah. So there you go.
Especially if you're over 50. I am.
There you go.
Wow. You go. Okay. And then, but you're diabetic, but your character, Mary, she's not diabetic, right?
She's not, right? So just my character will be, and then she's there to sort of do her best to help.
Is she also your girlfriend or your wife?
She'll be my wife in the movie as well.
Oh, that's convenient.
Yeah, you know, it just works out that way.
Yeah.
Who wrote this thing, right?
Yeah. So, okay. And then, because the Ukraine war happened, I mean, did you think of maybe modifying the script so that it doesn't have to actually put you in Ukraine, but you could do something where it's very close to the same thing?
I didn't think of changing it because the reality is like by the time this comes out, something else will be relevant, right? When I wrote it, it was COVID. You know, we were all stuck inside. It was, how are we going to get our medication? Are we going to have to leave the house in the middle of the pandemic in New York and like go get medication? You know, it could be a natural disaster, you know, right? Like supply lines are done and you have to leave and go out and get somewhere, or it could be, you know, a war or something like that. And so I think by not anchoring it in a current event, it really shows that it's applicable to so many different situations.
Okay. Now here's another question I just had. So
sure.
How come you can't just buy gallons and gallons of it? Like, is it have a certain shelf life, insulin?
Well, there's two reasons. Insulin needs to be refrigerated. Okay. So it usually has a refrigeration life of 2 to 3 years, roughly. Outside of the fridge, it can last for a while, maybe a couple of months, as long as temperatures don't fluctuate. If it gets really hot or really cold, it will go bad, at which point you can't really use it. But the reason why you can't buy gallons and gallons of it is because it's so expensive.
Right.
And because it's all behind, you know, a prescription paywall, right? You couldn't walk into the store and go say, I want to buy some insulin. You would have a prescription. You were allowed to have this much, which is sort of decided by the insurance providers. And so, you know, that's kind of what the story is about, right?
Okay.
They're going on a journey to try and find a bunch of insulin so that they can try and survive whatever's going on.
Now, okay, but it's not going to be like a zombie movie where like there's a whole bunch of diabetics that all have to kill each other because there's only so much insulin.
Matt, maybe that's what I'll do, and I'll when I write the feature, when somebody options to a feature, maybe that's what I'll add.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, is there anything else you want to say about your show
well, here's what I want to say to everybody out there. First off, go check out the Kickstarter. Even if it's just like $1 or $2 to kind of follow along with the movie, I think it will be a worthwhile thing to just be a part of. And, you know, it's really something that we're all making together. And the second thing is I will be back and we will continue our conversation.
The first thing we'll do is press the button.
Yes, we will, Matt. Yes, we will. And
I can't believe I didn't press that button. Darn it.
So I'll be back and we can hear all the good stuff when I'm back. All right.
Okay. Sounds good.
Good.
All right, Noah.
Thank you for having me, Matt. I appreciate it.
It was a blast. All right, well, we got to do the live long and prosper.
All right, live long and prosper, my friend.
All right.
fantastic creations emerging spontaneously from the space of life.
For the benefit of all beings everywhere.
We gotta change